Today, let's look at combining the handstand and the tuck planche position. So we're going to take both of these movements and combine them together into press variations and transitions between them. Now, ideally, you'll have a strong freestanding handstand that you can move around and not fall down, and it's nice and strong and capable to catch and recatch and have lots of room for error, but it's unrealistic to expect everyone to be at that level, so we can do most of these drills using the wall. And I'm going to show variations of them like so, that's going to make it easier to do the transitions between the planche and the handstand, even if you don't have a freestanding handstand as strong as that. And the same goes for the tuck planche. Ideally, you'll have a solid tuck planche that you can hold for 20 or 30 seconds, and you'll have planche progressions beyond the tuck planche, like so, but not everyone, again, is going to be at that level. So we can make the tuck planche much easier by using a toe assist as needed. So I can be in this position and mimicking the same position, but just with toe assistance. So first of all, we need to make sure that our handstand is warmed up and our planche is warmed up. Make sure you've done a good wrist prep and that you can get your handstand to your level. So if it's just pulling from the wall like so, making your body nice and strong in that position, using the fingertips to pull off. Now notice the shoulders have come forwards and feet have gone back in the opposite direction. This movement is essential for transitioning between the handstand and the planche to get your body to go like this, not only for planche press variations, but just having a really big room for error or window of balance in your freestanding handstand. And if you struggle with that, you can train it both back to wall and chest to wall. But just notice what's happening here. The shoulders are coming forwards, the feet or foot is going in the opposite direction. So here I'm using heel or the other foot to assist me, but the shoulder to the straight leg is staying connected like one segment. And then I can do exactly the same, which is the harder variation, like so, I'm moving both legs at the same time. But ideally I'll be able to do that. Now that's back to wall. I can play over chest to wall, which is probably my favorite way of learning this type of movement. So here, make a hollow, not an arch, a hollow position, and then take the shoulders away, push up and back to the wall again. This is super important for all of your handstand variations, especially the press and the planche press. And for the planche, externally rotate the hands. Make sure you've got really good protraction, so all of your energy is pushed up and slightly forwards. You're rounding your upper back as much as you can in that position. It's really important that we can push up in that position really strong with straight arms, and understand the base is the hands and it's taking everything, meaning that we're not keeping weight back in our feet and our hips. And once we've warmed up that tuck planche position, and we can either hold there for time or we can have toe assist, and we've got that good protraction, we can play with just opening and closing the shoulder in that position. And the way I like to do that is put the thumbs by the knees, push the floor away, and then push through both toes up and back again. Notice my energy is going up and only slightly forwards, and it's like I'm trying to push the floor away from me. So you can see there how light my toes are when I'm going up and forwards. Okay, once we've got that, let's start to make it higher. Start to work a transition that doesn't use much energy, but goes through the correct pathway. So thumbs by the knees, I'm going to push up and forwards just like I was there, but notice now I'm giving a little bit of a jump off my foot. See that? And I'm pushing back and back down again. So again, all the energy is going in this direction. If you need to, you can be here, closest to the wall, do exactly the same thing, but see if you can go all the way up, touch the wall. If needed, come back down slowly like that. And if you're super comfortable, you can go both legs at the same time and then just push all the way to handstand, slowly coming back down with control. Just use the wall as much as you need to and get very comfortable pushing that floor away. Another variation is to do it chest to wall, and this way is exactly the same, it's just we jump up onto the wall. So I come like this, and then I come to the wall, and then back down again. That is really good. Again, you need to focus on going up and not backwards, because if you go backwards, you're going to clout the wall. Next, let's jump up on our feet, turn the hands out, we're going to kick up to the wall, just do some wall leans. So in that position here, I'm going to take, ideally, all of my back to the wall and back off again. But if that feels too far away, go to your head first, come back again. I think the shoulders are moving, but the head is just being a stopper, and then slowly get closer and closer to the wall until you can go all the way to the wall, and I'm pushing as much as I can into the wall with the back. And then I come back off as one piece. That's very important that we get confident in that position, and it's very similar to that first movement we was playing with when we were balancing the handstand. It's so important because we need to take weight and energy forwards that's going to counterbalance the hips and the legs on the other side. Next, let's just use the wall walk to come between the planche and the handstand. So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to come this far away from the wall, so it's probably, I don't know, just under 1 meter away with the hands there. I think these squares are 1 meter, so you can see roughly where I need to be. Your body type, mobility and things are going to change that slightly. So externally rotate the hands in that position there. Notice I'm in this position, not arched. So I'm here, and then I'm just going to walk down the wall, walk on the floor into my planche, and then ideally walk back up. Now, while I'm doing this, I'm trying to maintain as much weight into the upper back and shoulders and the least amount of weight leaning on the wall with the feet and the least amount of weight stepping on the floor. Now let's step it up a little bit, do exactly the same, but instead of touching the wall and the floor as we come down, let's get rid of the floor now and just use the wall with our feet. So exactly the same setup, so here, but now as I come down, I'm gonna have to round, push through my upper back and see if I can step from here into my planche position. Remember, if you're using toe assist, you might just have light toe when you hit that planche position. But it's super important to have the knees really close to the chest and be pushing up and slightly forwards. We don't want to leave anything behind because that's just going to drag on the floor. And this is where you might need to fine tune your position, so the width of the hands and the distance away from the wall, and find where there's a sweet spot, because you don't want to be coming down and then long ways. You want to be coming down into the planche. So eventually we hardly use the wall. And that's what we're going to do next, is where if we had like 2 or 3 steps down the wall before, let's see if we can reduce that by at least 1 or 2. And ideally only have feet at the top. So then it would look like this. So if I was doing that, now I'm going to do 1 into the position or less, but just make it harder or more about the planche, less about the walking down the wall. Then once we've got that, we've got 2 choices. We can make it harder again and stick with that exercise and just try and get the concentric. So can we go back up with hardly touching the wall on the floor? Or we do the same thing, but back to wall. Now when we do it back to wall, you're only gonna have help at the top, and you need to have enough clearance to bring the shoulders and the head forwards to find the planche. But it'll look something like this. So I've got 1 foot here, and I'm gonna slowly come down, push up and forwards, there, and then in to my planche position. You can see there, look, I'm getting close to the wall. So that for me is like 1.5 feet away, and that's just enough clearance to find that planche position. But remember, when I'm demoing the exercises, I can do the freestanding version. So it's sort of a given that I can do all the wall variations. You might find one area that you're stuck in, and then you just have to fill the gaps around it until you can unlock it. But that's why it's worth playing with the back to wall and the chest to wall and the freestanding version. Now the beauty with the freestanding eccentric to planche is that you're coming down on top of your base instead of coming off the wall. When we're off the wall, it's like a sideways movement, but we really want it to be more of a down and an up movement. So it would be freestanding here. Now I'm coming down to like a froggy tuck position. Then I'm going to push up through my back as I bring my knees towards my chest, and there in to the planche. So it's like down and up on top of the base. So in a lot of ways, it's actually simpler than coming down sideways and then up. Now the concentric, exactly the same thing. We're just going to start in the planche or with the toe assist, and then find the wall, go up into that position, or we have less help or literally no help and go all the way to handstand. Now that's obviously pretty tricky and it needs a lot of strength and balance, but that will be the ultimate goal where we don't need to use the wall. So you would be in this planche position here and then push up like so into the freestanding handstand. Next, let's look at it in a totally different way. Let's go at it from a press handstand point of view. So first of all, let's go into a stacked press handstand position. So my hip crease is going to be on top of the heel of my palms. So I'm going to be in this position. So there would be my press. Now I'm purposely making it a little bit bent legs, a little bit ugly. The uglier, the better when it comes to the planche press to handstand, because that's going to allow us to round the upper back a bit more, and it's going to allow us to compensate for our hips and our legs sticking out in this direction. Because basically what we're looking at for a planche press to handstand is a lower hip position compared to our shoulders. With the one I just showed you, I stacked my hips very high up here. With the planche press, we're going to have our hips down here. So there's a big difference between this and this. But there's one rule we need to follow, is that our hip crease needs to go on top of the heel of the palm. Watch the planche press, the hip meets the heel of the palm, and then I go up from there. So even though the hip is lower, it still gets on top of the heel of the palm, and that's the point I can go into handstand. Now, all of you will have a sweet spot in terms of what position the hip and shoulders and the hands need to be to get you to press handstand. Some of you will already be doing some sort of planche press to handstand, or if you don't have a press handstand, it actually might be your quickest route to it. So slight bent arms, maybe a lower hip. So these tend to be the people that are stronger and less flexible, will press like this to start with, instead of it being so stacked, because they might not have as much flexibility or just don't feel so confident in that position. So the two ways we can attack it is, if your position's here, we just start to lower and bend the knees and then press from there instead of from up here. Or we raise the hands up on something like these weight plates, which is actually bringing my shoulders up higher now, relevant to my hips, making it more planchy when I go up. It doesn't look that much there, but if I raise them right up onto something like these IKEA steps, now my hip is much lower compared to the hands and the shoulders, and I have to really planche up to get into my handstand. Now, you might not be up to the level where you can planche press or press to handstand, but you can go through everything I just spoke about with the eccentric only. So I could start in the handstand on the steps, if I can get there, right, like so. And now when I come down, I'm rounding through the upper back, my hips are coming down, and then I leave touching the floor until as late as possible. And we can tie in the wall, back to wall, chest to wall variations as much as we need to. So there's a lot to digest there. Let me know if you have any questions. Reach out if you'd like coaching, and I'll speak to you guys in the next one.